You know, some of the stuff there are things there that I like to see in a P.T. Barnum movie. Like, they never talk about how P.T. Barnum sold weed to black people, telling them that it would turn them white. You know,
what?
The movie we're talking about is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest show here on earth. Or at least this movie is hoping that will be the case. Or at least make a lot of money, get a lot of people in, and maybe, just maybe, win an Academy Award or two. You know, we wouldn't mind Best Picture, but, you know, director maybe.
There's a bunch of songs there.
Yeah, songs, you know, production, sound design. We'll take some little things, but, man, we put a lot of work into this. And Hugh Jackman, passion project of his. You know, this is about P.T. Barnum. And this is the man who, you know, every time when circuses were a thing, this is the man whose name you always saw in that tent, even though he was dead like 100 years ago. But they've taken the legend and they've made a musical out of him and his legacy and the thing that he created, which is the circus, which, or at least what we know today of the circus. Before that, though, before the animals, before the clowns, before the tricks, he started out with freaks.
With freaks.
Yeah,
so this is a freak show movie?
He started out with freaks. Oh. Yeah, man. He said, you know what? A lot of people treating these folks bad. Freaks are people too. Mm-hmm. And not only am I going to bring them in and show the world that these people have a heart, have a soul, have feelings, I'm gonna get some money too. Put them out there, put them out there, and get that cash dollar, because
that do re mi.
That's right, because people love to look at something that's different, even kind of grotesque. And with that noble thing that he was trying to do, well, came a very complicated life. But don't worry, it's all put to. He's gonna be okay, because after all, it's all put to musical numbers and dance.
It helps.
It helps.
Helps ease the pain.
Let's take a look at the legendary story of P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. No one ever made a difference by being like everyone else.
Jean Valjean opened up a circus.
Yeah, man. Nobody ever tells that story, man.
Okay. Well, he had to do something.
Right.
I stole a loaf of bread.
Yeah. He was not
circus.
Yeah. He was not always like miserables. He was actually a happy man. You know, so going into this, now, as we know, P.T. Barnum is the centerpiece here. This is the figure that the story is centered around, and he's played by Hugh Jackman. Here, of course, he looks like a pile of melting dough or something. So he looks nothing like Hugh Jackman.
In old photos, everybody looks mad.
Yeah.
Because I got to pose for how long?
Yeah, exactly.
He was actually really young when he was supposed to be there. He did look like Hugh Jackman. This is like 20 years later.
It's a time lapse.
Yeah. But, you know, with P.T. Barnum, a lot of people are going to tell you that, you know, you don't know everything about him. There's a lot of complexities, and not all of them very good behind his story. You know, with this guy, people, now some of them true, maybe not. You know, because people are under the impression that this is a man who killed a lot of animals when his circus got started. He exploited people, including freaks. And if you're looking for the real life version and story of P.T. Barnum, then don't go.
This is not the place for it.
This is not, even though there's a flaw in that still, but this is the cartoon version of P.T. Barnum. This might be about Sideshow Bob or something, you know. This is because this is not that story. This is a fantasy musical, and it just so happens to be centered around the legend of P.T. Barnum. Now, before I hand it over to Martin, I will say I do speak kind of on the behalf of the people that are saying that you're not getting a true story, which is kind of problematic, because P.T. Barnum, he was a complex person. You know, this is a guy who had things that you won't hear about in the movie. You know, he had minstrel shows. He was against slavery, but he had a slave at one time. You know, his political life wasn't all that great, but he had noble aspirations, even though he took advantage of some of the things that he was going up against. You know, this is a guy who also has a story where this movie doesn't tell you about some of the people that were truly exploited. Because I remember I had read a story about a year ago, and it was from Vice, and it was about these two brothers, the Muse brothers. And these guys here, you know, what you won't hear about in the movie is about these brothers who were stolen from their mother and sold to the circus and had a traumatic time because they were told their mother was dead. And the Muse brothers are two albino black twins, African-American twins. And they were in the circus, even though they were musical geniuses. They could hear a song and play it once after hearing it on several different instruments. They were put on they were exhibited as cannibals, or people even said that they were aliens from Mars.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and this is also during their tenure in P.T. Barnum's circus, and that is something that you won't hear about in the movie. I personally have a problem with that and a few other things, but you know, it doesn't make me overlook the good things that you will see in the film. And there are several good things that you will find in this movie, especially if you love musicals.
I was first off excited that these were all original songs, and yeah, it becomes clear.
And it's the composer of the music in La La Land.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
And this is also written by Bill Condon, who directed Chicago and Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, and it starts out with P.T. Barnum, like it goes way back to his origin as being the kid of the tailor, who the tailor got abused, so his son really got knocked around.
Yeah, he just stabbed back and just watched his son get abused. You're like, oh, shit, if I gotta take it, you gonna take it too. At least I'm getting paid.
This family business.
and it's all about the class struggle where you know he grew up poor and fell in love with the rich girl and spent his whole life trying to make enough money to take her away from her dad and shove it in his face. It's not the real story of P.T. Barnum anyway. It's almost like they go like, well, they got some facts. They know they're going to get great visuals. Taking that out of your head that you're not seeing his real story is just a musical fantasy. Most of it works.
The production in it and the musical numbers, they are great. And the other thing, you know, some of the stuff there are things there that I would like to see in a P.T. Barnum movie. Like, they never talk about how P.T. Barnum sold weed to black people, telling them that it would turn them white. You know, this dude. What? I don't know if it was weed, but he sold like a plant to black people and it would turn them white. It's like he was a trickster. This motherfucker was Loki.
Okay.
You know,
he was into some of everything.
Yeah,
it's funny to hear you say that, because when he keeps getting accused of like, man, you're just a fraud. He's like, no, I ain't. You just come see.
No, in the movie they try to picture like, I just sell magic and dreams. No,
Yeah.
you're selling weed, telling people to turn them into another race. You know, it's so there are things about him that really cast a shadow over the movie for me, and I probably can't enjoy it for that much, and I will go into deeper why I can't. But I will say, just so I can say something positive here, is that and the production is so good that it almost casts another negative on the film, because you know, this is a musical where the set design is supposed to create a fantasy world that is like it looks like almost something out of an animated film or a fantasy itself. It's one of those movies where the world is such a dream and is so beautiful that even being broke and poor looks cool. Like, it looks like you're living in the slums.
Yeah.
And they're on the rooftop, and you know, while on the rooftop, they got that in the background. You can see like there's cartoon buildings.
Yeah.
And then they got that big ass moon in the sky that's so beautiful, and you got Five of the Mouse on the corner singing to it.
I saw some Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dancing penguins come in. You know, it's that kind of fantasy world where it is even poverty is so perfect and beautiful that it casts a shadow over the emotional impact you have of the characters. Like, you know, you're talking about the class struggle. You're talking about how this guy came from nothing. I don't feel too much emotions for these characters because they're living within a world that's bigger than them. I don't think you're going to cry, or maybe some people are, but I think they're wanting more emotion from the audience than they're going to get. You're not like, if you're like me, you're not going to cry because you're just so taken in by this fantasy world.
Do you think having them like be destitute and have, like, you know, showing these two albino twins like all that harsh stuff that went to him, do you think that would have added, like, brought more to the film?
No, they have some. I mean, the freaks go through some things because the town folks, they want to see him, but they also hate him and want to drive him out.
Okay,
and they aren't invited to the high society stuff, and they feel bad about themselves. But it's never on that tragic of a level.
No, and I'll tell you why. You know, and I like that story of them trying to, you know, people trying to chase them out of town and whatnot. I mean, that's noble and everything. But so this fantasy world, where you might not feel too much for the characters because you're so wrapped up in everything. I mean, the choreography, the dance numbers, the music, it's amazing. There's a dance number in here where they're at a bar. This is where P.T. Barnum goes in to talk to Zac Efron. And Zac Efron's character in the movie, he's trying to get him to be his partner. It's not Bailey. it's a guy named Philip Carlisle, I think. He's a playwright and aristocrat, and he comes from money. And and P.T. Barnum goes in to tell him, like, hey man, you know what? You're not happy. You live in a drab world that's just full of stuck-up people. Come to the circus, be happy, set yourself free, and
then introduce me to your rich friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, he always had an angle, and introduce me to your rich friends, and I'll give him my black chick that I have on my crew. but you know, it's when he's trying to convince him of that, it's all done through a musical number where they're at a bar. And the whole time they're singing and they're dancing. The bartender, who doesn't really sing, he barely dances, but he weaves himself in and out. He keeps pouring them drinks as they're negotiating. And it's an amazing musical number, man. Of course, you have your circus musical numbers, which are big and colorful and full of gala. I really
man, your boy Zachy Poo can sing.
He can sing. Oh, I'm so proud of Zachy Poo, man. my baby can sing. Y'all know I got a man crush on Zachy Poo, man. And I got to tell you, he never ceases to amaze me. I'm not saying this guy got a crush on him. I'm saying this because in every movie, first of all, that high school musical background's paying off here.
Yeah, no, the boy's got talent.
Yeah, and then he's not as great of a showman as Hugh Jackman, but he's hanging in there, man.
He's got a better voice.
Yeah, you know what?
Because they're singing the same song at one point, and then he comes in with his verse, and you're like, okay. Hugh Jackman has a great Broadway voice, but Zac Efron can really sing.
Zac Efron, man, he does it. And, you know, that's the thing about it. Like, they have in here a whole subplot about P.T. Barnum and a woman that he's trying to bring to the public eye who is not even a freak or anything. She has another talent. She's legit. She sings.
Which that was all real.
And no, it was real, but in the movie, again, you don't feel for it that much. But you do love everything that goes in with that with her musical numbers.
Yeah.
And also, Hugh Jackman, this is a passion project for him. You can look when you see Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine, you can tell he's grumpy. He ain't just playing a character like he's like if these claws,
Logan was real life.
He's like if these claws work, I really would slice a bitch right now. But with musical numbers and dance and stage, you can see how much he's invested in this. He's so wide-eyed. He's like a kid who's just set loose in the playground.
Fine,
man.
I can be me.
He can be me.
I'm a star, man.
Everything that I'm saying here is what Moulin Rouge should have been. Because even though the dramatic parts, while they might not be emotional, they hold up because they got good actors.
Yeah.
They carry you through to the next number. They carry the story. Even though it can't overcome the production here, they carry the story. They do it well.
Yeah, that was the thing. I never got emotional about any of it, and I was like, I think you want me to be, and it's not quite carrying over, but I'm not bored. Everything did flow from one thing to the next, and it's that movie where when they start to break into song, I'm not going, oh no. I go, ooh, okay, what now?
Yeah, no, when they break into song, it feels natural, and again, that's because they chose the perfect production design because everything feels like you're in a world where you're supposed to break out in song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you can't sing, you will when you walk down this street.
You better.
Yeah, you better.
Don't come in here if you can't sing.
Give me your money. Okay. Now, here's the thing. And speaking of people who are good in this, I really love what's her name?
Zendaya?
No.
No.
Damn.
No, that's
good.
I ain't gonna say that. That's a quick no. Carrie, what's her name?
Michelle Williams?
Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams. I'm sorry, I said Carrie Mulligan. Shame on me. Michelle Williams. She has some musical numbers in there, and she's good. But if there's anybody that really does and I say this about the movie, not about her. She is the only thing that really is emotional here.
Yeah, well, I feel like she got marginalized for the first half of the film.
Yeah.
But then she comes back stronger in the second half. And yeah, you're right. If there's somebody you feel for, is her.
Do what you did in Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, I mean, but because they have moments that, like, you see these moments when they're on the rooftop and they're set up so sweet, and she's just going along with whatever he does. And right when it gets to that moment of, all right, motherfucker, you know, well, like, all right, okay, it's cool staying on the roof with lights and everything, but when we gonna make some money? Or you know you fucked up, right?
Yeah.
I can't stand behind you here.
Yeah.
She's the one that has been carrying the movie on that end. So she's good. Now, here's my major problem with the film. And now this is me. And these are personal issues with me. So I'm not trying to lay this on anybody else. But this is a movie that goes through something I don't like about a lot of films. And it's sort of a Great White Hope movie. In this movie, P.T. Barnum is positioned as a man who is the leader and representative of these misunderstood people.
The white savior.
The white savior. They're these freaks. Mm-hmm. You know, he goes in, and he's talking about how they're people too. And he's always telling them, you know, and even though they show some conflicting moments where he doesn't want to show them everywhere, he is going in and he is doing what the movie's doing. The movie is preaching, and the movie's preaching tolerance, almost diversity in a way.
Yeah.
Except that it's not that he's preaching about this, and the movie's trying to take on this torch, but it's not about them. It's again about your white males, their love story, their struggles, things that are going on with them, and meanwhile, you have your freaks who are there just to provide a little bit of song and dance when these things happen.
So he's basically saying, don't marginalize these people while I marginalize these people.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's sort of P.T. Barnum himself. I mean, it's kind of meta in its own way.
But it's the way, again, they position P.T. Barnum to be, as you say, a savior. You know, P.T. Barnum probably was a guy that exploited these people, and the movie tries to have it both ways. It tried to say he exploited people, but, oh, can't he sing and dance? And, you know, and then they put these people in the background. They try to make it their story, and they put them in the background. And that includes when you talk about Zendaya, she's one of the main examples here. You know, the only reason she's a person of color, the only reason why she has a story is because she has a romance with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, she has a brother in the movie, and that brother, he hardly gets any lines.
Hey, he gets to scowl.
Yeah, and I would be too if they did that to me. Yeah, sitting in the back. And you know what? And
He gets to mean mug Zac Efron a couple times.
yeah, the brother just sitting back there, all he gets is like, "How you doing?" and sing a few songs with the other freaks because they lump him in as the other freaks. You know, and this is
why? Because he's black.
Because he's black. Oh wow! Yeah, they lump him in and like, well,
Yeah, that is like, okay, you're really fat and you have a beard and you're super tall and you're black and you're really short.
what? Hey, what?
It's the worst superpower ever.
What was that last one?
But
He's really
Zendaya,
short.
you know, she's light skinned and she gets to have her story because she's mixed in with a lead white male.
Yeah, motherfucker.
You're like, I'm high as fuck right now.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
In scene. And that's probably the only lines that brother has right there.
Yeah. Who's this?
Yeah, man. You know, I mean, like I said, that is something that is personal with me, and it just, like I said, it just takes a big toll on how I enjoyed this film. But Martin, you know,
I hear what you're saying. It's just that she's a name.
Yeah, no, I know she's a name, but her place, her role, her position,
That character, no matter who it was played by, would be the same
still
one.
people of color.
No, it would. It would. It's just the whole thing with the freaks. I mean, but it's not like they don't address Barnum's almost his betrayal of these people.
They do, but it's such a light touch.
This whole movie's a light touch compared to, you know, the real story. But even within his real story, there's people, I mean, like actual freaks some who say, yeah, he exploited me, and others say, hey, had he not come along, I would have just starved to death, or I would have had nothing.
Yeah.
It's one of these movies where if you're in it for what's historical, you're just gonna be mad, or you're gonna leave, still hungry. It's not there. It's for the spectacle. I would give it a matinee in as much as for just the visual and audio feast of it. You really do need a theater with big speakers. I mean, you'd be doing yourself a favor.
No, you do.
You could. I mean, unless you have a great, multi-$1,000 sound system at home, you kind of cheat yourself if this is something you think you would want to see.
Yeah, and you make a great point by saying that. I mean, it is something that works beautifully on the big screen. You know, my problem with it is that not only am I uncomfortable with the story. I mean, I really just think it's full of shit. And the reason why I say that is because I hear what you're saying, and I can let a lot of that slide. I can let the fantasy slide, but at the end of the movie, I think they do that thing. P.T. Barnum went on to do this and that, and I'm like, and, you know, I don't remember. Did it do that at the end?
I don't know. I don't remember if it did that or not.
If it did,
because I don't remember going in that many details about him.
Yeah,
I read more later after the fact, like him becoming a politician.
And maybe it didn't. You know, I mean, I thought maybe they said P.T. Barnum went on to like make people.
Or the circus lasted this long.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. You know, and that's fine. And Martin is right. You know, if this is something you want to go see for the spectacle, then you should. And it works beautifully on the big screen. For me, though, it was just more of a big budget musical version of something like The Blind Side. You know?
Damn, man, come on.
Well, I mean, you get what I'm saying, though, right? It's like you know, it took a story about how this person was so good to these people of color, and then the story is not true. And and again, just like I said, I'm like a lot of people today who feel a little more emboldened to say that I just don't like seeing the way I'm reflected on screen like that. So I give this a rental. You know, I give this a very good rental, and I'm mainly giving that to the credit of the people who made the magic here really happen. And again, don't come at me raw or anything, because I'll tell you, it's just a personal thing. If you going to enjoy it, you ain't gonna see me out there boycotting with a picket sign. P.T. Barnum's a liar. He sold me weed and told me I would turn white.
Sure.
Look at me. You know. So yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from, man.
Well, I get what you're saying too.
Yeah. So look at that. Teamwork.
We can agree.
Yeah. For shit.
Snowflake.
It's better than you call me a bitch.